Welcome back to Wild Speculations, everybody. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
Tonight we talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 37, From the Boughs.
Yes.
Fairly combat-heavy episode.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
potentially even more heavy. But we begin where we left off.
Yep. Making our way downtown.
Yep. And the Rorschach test.
Yes.
I don't know that we have seen a better example of Fern grew up with a hag.
Yeah. That's fair.
At least that's all that's all where I hit my head was at. I was like, that's legit. And Matt introduced what he called a subtle skill challenge.
Yeah.
Where they needed 4 successes before 2 failures.
Yes.
And I am so used to the way that we do it.
Yeah.
Which is heavily influenced by the way 4th edition did it. That the loose nature of what he was doing at the table kind of annoy is too strong a word, but it sort of put me off.
I found it interesting. The way I interpreted it was there were certain things that needed to be done. You let them do their things, skill check, but only the ones that triggered those events that probably could have happened anywhere.
Yeah, well,
because like the first one Taliesin made, he's like, okay, you can make the roll, but then when Liam was like, I go up to the top of the buildings, which gaining an advantage point was probably one of them. He's like, okay, you can make the first actual roll in the skill challenge. And I think that's what he meant by subtle. So there was like, it was a skill challenge, and there were specific events he had to hit. You had to hit for those skill checks to count towards the successes or failures, is the way I interpreted what was going on.
So my counter argument to that is Chetney failed his survival check, which caused the bones to erupt.
Right, but did that count towards the failures? I mean, yeah, something happened, but that doesn't mean it counted towards the failures.
I don't know. And that gets to where, because I sort of, kind of with you, and Rose, I also sort of got over it. And on my rewatch, I kind of appreciated what he was doing a little bit. But also, if I was a player, I would not. As an audience member and seeing what Matt was doing, I can appreciate it. But if I was a player at the table, I would not have. Where sometimes he would announce it, sometimes he would just make a mark.
Yeah.
Behind the screen. And choosing what role to take and what role not to take gives you, the DM, choice.
Yeah.
And more ability to steer the story of the encounter how you want it.
It allows you to guide the story without appearing railroady.
Yes.
Which is always a good thing. If you need to get from point A to point B, you need to do it in a way that's not like you have to do this or you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Because as a player, nothing annoys me more than
Fair.
you have to do it this way and anything else will fail automatically. You know.
And one of the benefits of the way that he was doing it is you are not closing off content or avenues of advancement.
Yeah.
I
mean, you don't have to give me a sandbox, but you have to give me the illusion of a sandbox. You have to make me feel like what I do matters, not only if I do what you want me to.
Yeah. I don't know, part of me would also like to see the cast sort of narrate the scene the way that, Alex got us used to doing with skill challenges. Where you not only narrate what skill you choose with skill, narrate how it's relevant, and depending on success or failure, the DM will take over and narrate how it did or didn't work. It takes some getting used to as a player to have that power to control the scene and stuff. To define the issue that you are using, that you are going to overcome with your skill. But in a horror setting, I don't think you, the DM, want to give up that kind of power. Just because the setting and what's there, what's not there, is too powerful. To give up. But yeah. We meet Matilda at about age 7, you think?
Yeah, I think she was like 7, 8.
Possibly some version of Whitestone Andy.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Whether that's really what he was like or not, who knows? But probably. But using the name Matilda, I couldn't help but think about the Roald Dahl story. Matilda's a very special girl. She's very smart. She has powers.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if there was ever I'm big, you're small, I'm right, you're wrong thing from her parents, ever. I mean, I kind of doubt it, but yeah, that's just where my brain went. And would you like to play a game? 2 things occur to me.
Saw and what?
Actually, Saw wasn't one. It was War Games, actually.
Okay.
Where the only way to win is not to play.
Yeah, my mind went there.
And also, the answer to that is always no. But if we hold to that, our hobby doesn't grow. So...
yeah. You throw yes and out the window and...
Imogen keeps her connection to young Matilda and uses it to get a direction.
Yep.
Or at least a hint of where she's at. And thought Matt did a pretty good job setting up that Laudna was sort of leaving hints for them to find her, while Delilah, controlling the city, was trying to prevent them from making it. And I mentioned last week how I thought this would go in sort of 3 acts. And we basically got that.
Yeah.
Where our first act is meeting young Matilda, then toddler, 3-year-old Matilda, then Laudna getting dressed, and then the fight. So we had our 3 acts before the conclusion, sort of thing. And that fits in between the 4 successes.
Yeah.
So first success,
Act 1. Second success, Act 2. Yeah.
Now, young Matilda in the barn was arguably the most significant of the encounters, of the seeing Laudna's history. Because in that encounter, we get 2 dolls, first of all, and one of them is a woman with a necklace, and one of them is a bird that she made to fly far, far away. And I immediately thought of Jenny.
Yes. Dear Lord, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away from here.
Yeah. And it's a raven. We talked last week extensively about
Patron replacements.
Yes. So I think it's probably the Raven Queen.
I at this point I have to agree.
And yes, Heather, the therapy was
love
great.
That. You know what? We want to hear you. What do you?
Which actually we sort of had a preview of, not from FCG but from Ashton, with using the art, because that's actually a technique that therapists use with children. They encourage them to draw, and then they talk about what they drew.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the other major hint in the scene with 3-year-old Matilda, Laudna, is the creeping vines, and Matt foreshadowing damage types.
Yeah.
Fire is important, slashing is important. And they shortcut it with dynamite, because dynamite solves everything.
Dynamite is fire. Dynamite makes fire.
Does it though? Because technically I would call that force.
Do things catch on fire when dynamite explodes?
Not usually. If it's just dynamite. That's a Hollywood thing.
They're Hollywood people.
Fair. Just because in Hollywood, most of the explosions they use are gasoline.
Yeah.
So, and, well, anyway, we don't need to get into slow and fast explosives. It's a tangent not to go down. But anyway, interesting mechanic that Matt used that I don't think I've seen very often. Failing your save costs you hit dice.
Yeah.
I have thought about that.
I have also.
For overland travel.
Oh.
Instead of like levels of exhaustion, or instead of like weather that might be damaging, that technically, rules as written, you would inflict damage. just taking hit dice away.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing that.
I was going to do that when you guys were in the tundra. Instead of exhaustion. You fail the save at the end of the day, you lose hit dice.
Yeah. Which is more punishing when you do
Gritty
slow
healing.
natural healing and gritty healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
we tend to do.
Yeah. Highly recommended if you don't play that way. The building Frogger was funny. Where they just see all the buildings.
Yeah.
FCG flips a coin. Now, Brennan in Calamity, in the final episode, talks about how sometimes players do something so amazing, so great, you just give them the natural 20.
Yeah.
And I think Matt did that in 2 cases in this episode. The first was Imogen reaching out with her mind and keeping contact with Matilda. He just, okay, that's a success.
Yeah.
The second one is FCG flipping the coin. Because that led to our next Laudna vignette.
So, with the good FCG, bad FCG, and the flipping, is he turning into Two-Face?
I can see that happening. Yeah. Especially if the concept, or if he begins to fear the consequences of his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Now
that he knows he has a soul.
Yeah.
Do my actions have weight? More weight?
Yeah. And does he use the coin for avoidance?
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. Yeah, I don't know. I think in some ways, also Sam is leaning into it a little heavy.
Yeah.
To try to make up for lost time, as it were. Because
that's interesting.
He hasn't really been a cleric in the classical sense, with the holy symbol and all that. And he's tried to purposefully flavor all of his cleric abilities as extensions of himself.
Yeah.
And like he said on Four-Sided Dive, he started looking ahead, and eventually that shit don't happen anymore. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I think he's playing up the Changebringer coin a lot right now. And I think more likely it will fade to the background until he is comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Which probably won't happen until they go to the temple in Whitestone, at least.
At least.
But we see Laudna, Matilda, on Death Eve, getting ready.
Yep.
And we meet Laudna. Her mother?
Yeah.
Although that's a little fuzzy. Because we've all seen how Matt confuses Imogen and Laura for Laudna.
Yeah.
So was it a name slip up or not? I don't know. In either case, we will probably get confirmation this week.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they will ask her that.
Yes. Laudna comes back.
More than just the
we got the cameo.
90 seconds.
We got the cameo, so you're right. She did come back to the table this week, but I was also right in that Laudna's not coming back till next week.
We'll split.
I had to laugh at that. Like, huh? We were both right. We had opposing opinions, and we were both right. Okay.
Yep.
And I love the bit with the callback to the Doors of Whitestone.
I felt like Matt.
And Dallas is just like, you know what? I'm just going to go look for the window right now. I'm just going to skip the bullshit. I'm not going to wait 6 rounds this time.
I mean, it could have happened organically if they had just waited.
Hey, if that's what it takes to open the door, then.
Is he really going to take a 5th level spell? That's what it took. Yep. Imogen saying, don't go. And then Ashton, what? We can't change anything. We're not time traveling. You can't.
Right.
All of this has happened before. Which got a peek into sort of what Laudna has been experiencing, which Matt tells her when she sits down, when he's like, this is what's happening, and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and him removing the necklace and the doll catching fire and turning to ash.
Yeah.
Will prove to be important. And Ashley, so hardcore manifesting cartoon Delilah. Is the necklace, are they green gems?
Yeah. And no one made a Hey There Delilah joke.
Well, that's because Travis did it 2 episodes ago, and Matt gave him daggers. he got like 3 lines out, and he's like,
Yeah, but that seems like the time when Sam would most likely make the joke again.
yeah. Well, I mean, they did.
I.e., the shirts.
Yeah. They did use hey now, Delilah's back.
Yeah.
To paraphrase the song. The ghost attack, her mother and father.
Yep.
Imogen cast Swordburst, which I think we've seen her cast once before.
Yeah.
Matt didn't make Fern or Orem or any other allies looking through that window make a save.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an oversight, or do we just assume that not everybody was that close, and Fern succeeded?
That's what I assumed, and I only assumed that because before anyone, like, I know they rolled initiative and everything, but before anyone said anything, she said, I cast this. And I think he was giving her that benefit of the doubt.
Well, they were coming through the window and attacking Fern and her.
Right.
So they, at least the 2 of them were right there.
Yeah. Which is why I say, yeah, I assume he just allowed Fern to make,
Just assumed that she succeeded.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Or that the thing was wrapped around her enough that it gave her cover.
Fair. I'm wondering if Ashley is getting a little too much Keyleth in her brain. because Ashley doesn't always try to play the optimal play, although she makes genius plays.
Yeah.
Often enough. But in this episode, she seemed to be channeling Keelan. Where I cast Speak with Animals when Laura was, I'm going to cast Sword Burst.
Yeah.
But it comes to her turn, and instead she casts Poison Spray. And she's like, that's probably not going to be effective. And Travis sitting next to her is like, no. Basically, it's like, they're ghosts. But that Poison Spray is arguably
as effective.
Marginally more effective than Speak with Animals.
It's arguably as effective also. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But all I can think about in that moment is Fern someday wild shaping into an octopus and getting to ink. Because all I could think about was the octopus in Finding Nemo. When they scare it, oh, you made me ink, and everyone starts laughing. So we'll put that on the list of things that will probably never happen. It would be funny if it did.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. Please no. Because my brain goes to the one shot with with Sprinkle and all the animals. And
oh, yeah.
Look at my ink hole. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to relive that.
Fair. Lampshading Theater of the Mind was a little trolly of Sam. And also, it kind of struck me as almost an apology by Matt. Not to his players, but to the audience. Basically saying, I don't have a map for this, so this is what we're going to do. As sort of a sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to do that. But they tend to use the maps.
Yeah.
Especially because they are sponsored segments.
Well, I mean, if I had the resources to be able to have all those maps and build those, I'd be using them every time too.
Fair.
Sponsored or not. If I had access to that, I'd be using them every chance I got.
Yeah. After the little combat, they drink potions. Chetney downs a superior healing potion and a potion of possibility.
Yep.
Imogen, potion of possibility.
FCG.
I don't think he did.
He didn't?
No.
I thought he did.
He was thinking about it, but I don't think that he did. And he certainly, he didn't use it during the fight.
Yeah.
I
assume, like most preemptive potions and players, he took it and then forgot he took it.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, it happens way more often than it should with players.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this because it lasts a long time and then I'll have it when I need it. Oh, crap. I could have used it then and I forgot.
And especially between sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Orem's first bonding with FCG. And I think was it Liam Briarwoods just won't stay gone. And Matt's like, you guys are making characters intimately tied to them. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. I mean, fair. Yeah. But, counter argument, they made no characters connected to the Briarwoods in Campaign 2, and while they didn't make an appearance, they did come up and their impact came up.
True. But that was more servicing the world building than anything. But yeah. We get Delilah manifesting and go to break. As Heather mentioned, FCG offers therapy.
Yep.
Chetney negotiates.
Yeah. There's something about bullshitters bullshitting bullshitters. Which is all that was.
Not two evil people coming to an arrangement.
No. No. I mean, yes, but no. Because there was no real intention of even appearance of compromise.
Fair. We hear from Delilah that Laudna is simply the most convenient means. And Ashton calls her out.
Yeah.
About, you keep saying you have these options. I don't think you do. What are they? Name one.
Yeah. And I was right there with him.
But Chetney's the only one who made an insight check. Who asked, do I believe her?
Yeah.
And he gets whispers.
Yeah. And Taliesin was like, thank you, because he was trying to goad it to, and I think he was goading it for Liam. Because Liam's got the high shit with that.
Yeah.
But Travis is the one that picked up on what was happening. Because I don't think that Ashton has
wisdom isn't one of his high stats.
Yeah.
It's not as low as his charisma.
And I don't think it's trained insight.
Yeah.
So I think he was setting it up for someone who can make the insight check to make the insight check.
Yeah. Imogen tries to reach out and can't. And that was good. To heighten attention.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, it seems in the presence of Delilah you can't reach her. Which is a nice foreshadow of what she says later after Chetney cons a proof of life out of her.
Yep.
With that natural 20 deception check.
Yep.
And Imogen kicking off combat with
Psychic Lance.
And that's what she tried to warn everybody about earlier. If Delilah freezes, wipe her out. Because the effect if you fail to save is you're stunned.
Yeah.
But it's an intelligence save against a
wizard.
would-be lich. So, yes. And we have a bit of an argument. A discussion, let's say, about spellcasting and surprise and getting your spell off before anything happens. And Matt was like, well, she was ready for you guys to throw down. And Laura's like, well, she says it just happens. It's like, no, there's components. And Matt's like, well, what are the components? And she's like, it's just verbal. So when I said her name, and Matt's like, okay, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Although my headcanon is Delilah Briarwood, target, right? I will sunder you, and sunder was the word that...
See, and my headcanon doesn't matter. The word itself doesn't matter. For verbal components, it's how you say that. Either like with sorcerers, either your voice changes, like becomes hollow or something. And someone who's trained in Arcana would be able to pick up on a spell being cast, even if it's just verbal components.
Yeah.
Especially as high as Delilah should be. Now, if she had done sorcery points to do a psychic spell,
yeah,
to where there's no components,
or make it subtle.
Right. Well, psychics spell is even better. But if she had done either of those, then yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to discuss about the combat is...
Or is she coming out and say you kill her instantly, she disappears? And then
No.
running away before the map arrives?
No. Matt saying that what Liam was describing was difficult. And he set a high DC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think what Liam was describing was any more difficult than him leaping up to the top of the roofs. Catching a rope is not difficult. Swinging with momentum, not that difficult. I don't know, like I just sort of broke it down. What part of this is difficult?
Because the terrain interacts on Delilah's behalf. We saw that with the buildings, not necessarily impeding the movement, but directing their movement. And the shade tree, for lack of a better term, being the center of her power in this pocket dimension.
I guess I can kind of go for that. I don't know.
I just see the vines kind of blowing in the wind to move out of the way to make it harder for him to grab the things.
That's okay. That's fair.
That's how I envisioned why it would be difficult in a hard DC, because that's where the prize is. That's where the key to the battle is. Yeah.
You just don't want to give it away. That's fair.
And since he established the terrain moves in Delilah's favor, the terrain moved in Delilah's favor. He didn't rule it out and say, no, you can't do it.
So here's the question. Would it have been better to set like a DC 15, but give him disadvantage? Which mathematically is the same as setting a DC of 20.
Right.
But it doesn't feel the same.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. It could go either way. Like, either way, I would see as fine.
Yeah.
A fine way to rule it. And I know he didn't do it this way. I know he had one make a strength check and one make an athletics or acrobatics check.
And Ashton.
Chuck, I would have just been like, yeah, you've got advantage on your jump check to get there.
Yeah.
And then the disadvantage ruling out the advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, like, in my brain, I would have done that advantage and then made it a higher DC.
Yeah.
So that there's still the challenge, but you can help mitigate that through teamwork.
Yeah.
Rather than making it simple through teamwork when this is the key to my battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like I said, I know he didn't do that. He didn't say you have an advantage, but like in my brain, that's how I would have plotted it out if I was running that scenario.
Yeah.
And so that's why.
Did you notice how much Ashton moved? A lot more than 20 feet. Both when he moved forward and when he moved back and when Delilah moved in. It was like 30 to 40 feet. and in like, yeah. But I was like, I noticed that live, and I was like, well, I mean, does it really matter? Meh.
Yeah, no.
And especially when Delilah was moving him, I think part of the reason why she targeted Ashton is because Matt may have realized he moved him too much and just decided, well, I'm just going to move him sort of laterally.
To where he should be.
Yeah.
Possibly.
The same distance away from the tree that he should have been.
I mean...
And Rose, Ashton huffing it seems to be his lot in life.
I mean,
The Destroy
when the
Undead.
woman you love is on the line.
Well, yeah. The Destroy Undead that Heather mentioned earlier, by FCG. An epic moment, sort of a callback to Campaign 1, when Pike manifests, destroys undead, and just vaporize all the zombies and skeletons. Which I don't think the cartoon did justice, but I don't think it would have been very nice to do to the animators to animate what Matt had been describing.
True.
So I cut him slack on there.
You can do a lot more with storytelling than you can with animation.
For sure.
Verbal imagery first.
Yes. Matt letting the players know that Delilah and the tree were connected, I thought was expertly done.
Mm-hmm.
First, she is buffed by the tree, and then when she takes damage, Matt talks about how the tree seems to glow. And I think had they concentrated on Delilah instead of the tree, they might have lost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would have all been ejected from the thing and we wouldn't be getting Lana back. 100% guarantee it.
Because she was doing enough to basically potentially wipe them out in 2 hits. Everybody.
Yeah.
And she had the action economy to do it.
This scene was why I'm glad they didn't learn from their mistakes with Odahan. Because if they had focused on Odahan, they probably could have taken her.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And it screwed them over. If they had focused on Delilah, it would have screwed them over.
Well, I mean, so counter argument is once they identified the target, the Sun Tree, and because they were still kind of splitting, these people are going after Laudna, these people are gonna take Delilah.
Yeah.
Once it was, oh no, the tree, then everyone focused on the tree.
Right.
But yeah, the first 2 rounds, yeah, okay, for sure. Fair. I neglected in my notes to write down Fern casting Earthbind, and that was a great move to get Delilah in range of Ashton, Chetney,
Orem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's like the fucking flea.
Yeah.
Tick.
Yeah. Orem doesn't have that much of a problem against flying creatures, especially if they're flying well.
From A Bug's Life. That's just what he just needs a twin.
Yeah. But we get the first use of Imogen's feet.
Yeah.
She calls Ruidus. Cast lightning. Doesn't do as much damage as she wanted. She takes damage. And I think she did it wrong.
Okay.
Because I think the ability reads, and Matt tried to correct her, but didn't press it. You roll 3d6. You take that damage. They take that damage. I think that's probably the way it's written.
Hmm.
And Laura, being Laura, rolled the dice on the damage that she was going to deal to Delilah. She just rolled it again. And it just happened to be 4 points more than what she took.
Hmm.
But I think the ability, the way it's probably written, is you take 3d6.
You both take that amount.
Yeah. Or you take half the amount, and they take the whole of it, or whatever. Either way, it was interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's an alternate ability that has to do with psychic damage. Or if it's just 3d6 of whatever damage you just dealt. So if the last spell is lightning, it's lightning. If the last spell is psychic, it's psychic.
Yeah.
If it's fire, it's fire. FCG gets knocked out first. And Sam gets to cut his rope. And then Orem gets taken out. And they're getting so close. The boughs are on fire. The roots are tore up. And Ashley asks about concentration spells. She didn't say what spell she was going to cast. But with my mind powers, I know which one it was.
Okay.
Flaming Sphere. Because Flaming Sphere would have wrecked that tree.
Yeah.
Because with it, the roots and trunk are adjacent to the sphere. So they're just taking damage every turn.
Yeah.
She never really got close enough to the tree, Snoopy, to use Burning Hands. But she could. I mean, I guess that's another possibility. But Flaming Sphere was the spell that she was thinking about casting.
You're probably right. I'll be honest, in my brain, I thought Call Lightning.
No.
Probably because, to me, that's a more stereotypical druid spell.
Yeah, but she has Flaming Sphere always prepared.
Yeah.
Because she's a wildfire druid.
Yeah. No, you're probably right, but my brain didn't go there. Mm. My brain went to Call Lightning because...
It's what Keyleth would do.
Well, no, because of the look on Ashley's face of excitement and, oh shit, yeah, when Laura said, I cast Lightning Bolt, it sets whatever it hits on fire. And Matt saying, oh yeah, it's a tree, it doesn't get a dex save.
Yeah, but I don't think Call Lightning specifies that it catches things on fire.
Okay.
So,
but anyway, that's why my mind went there.
Fair enough.
But no, I agree with you. You're probably right. The Flaming Sphere.
Yeah. But Imogen gets the how do you want to do this?
Yep.
By splitting the tree with lightning bolt. And I was thinking of Yasha.
Yeah.
When they were out in the fields in the Empire.
In the tree.
Yeah. And she took a piece of the smoldering tree and kept that with her. Yeah, that's where my mind went. Not that there was any connection between the moments at all. Just
Other than a tree splitting from lightning.
yeah. But yeah, and then Matt says, "And you wake up, and you wake up, and you wake up, and you wake up."
And Orem and FCG are already away.
Yeah. And they come back and they think they're going to start the ritual, and Matt says, "And that's where we'll pick up next week."
Yep.
Liam has been very animated.
Yeah.
Running around the table, jumping up. Yeah. MVP for this episode for you.
Imogen.
Yeah.
She.
I don't disagree.
I mean, yes, this was the quest to get Laudna, but this was an Imogen-centric quest.
Well, in that Laudna is most important to Imogen. But Ashton was my second.
Yeah, Ashton was my second. He's up there with the importance. He's just not willing to admit it yet.
And the reason why I wanted to give it to Ashton is because he was helpful and Imogen, Laudna's boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And him keeping Imogen on track. Like, look, you can't change any of this.
Oh yeah, no, he was definitely up there, like very close. I gave it to Imogen because like I said, it was basically an Imogen-centric thing. She was the one that was openly passionate about it. Like, and the previous week, Ashton was the one that was openly passionate about getting her back. And, and she got the "how do you want to do this?" And she was the one that came up with the plan for sending.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, right there, could go to either one of them. They're kind of both right there hand in hand, but because it was...
Also, I mean, I don't know if you can reward a player for it more than a dice, but if there's any player more closely associated with the dice, it's Laura. But her use of her moats also were like the biggest turn.
Yeah.
And sort of literally life and death moments.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't know if Laudna is going to come back and immediately have the Raven Queen.
No.
As a patron.
No. I'm sure it'll be like Ford and she'll go a while without warlock powers.
I don't think it's going to be a while. It may be an episode or two.
Yeah.
Depending on whether or not they go to the Chapel of the Raven Queen.
And I think they will. I think they'll be directed there. Oh, Gianna, she's coming back. My brother came back. Hey, you know who you should talk to?
Well, I mean, Bertrand might be interred there.
Bertrand might be interred there. They may go for that reason. But, I can see Vex being like,
Yeah.
Especially because Vex feels like she owes her. Because Laudna was her.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that moment. Laudna meeting the members of Vox Machina.
Now, does Laudna get the Raven Queen as her patron? Or hear me out, because Vax'ildan, because like with the Celestial, it doesn't have to be a god. It's most likely just a celestial creature or an avatar. Is Vax going to be her new patron?
Also a possibility.
And that would leave it open if they have to rewrite history for their gods.
Yeah.
That Vax became of this god, and now it's still tied.
Yeah. They were joking about the Briarwoods won't go away. Delilah will be back.
Well, it's the third time she's been put down in 3 campaigns, so.
She will be back as a Demi-Lich.
Yeah.
Matt foreshadowed that awesomely.
Yeah.
As the Boughs burned away, died, her skull being there, and the flaming green flame eyes. That's a Demi-Lich.
Yeah.
Or a flame skull, but
more likely.
By the time she returns and the level they're going to be, she's going to be a Demi-Lich.
Yeah. It's Delilah Briarwood. She's not going to downgrade to a fucking skull.
Yes. Fair. And that will be the battle that Laudna finally gets to fight back.
Yeah.
Like she said,
she gets to.
You have to fight her. I haven't been able to do that for 30 years.
It's her sword to the chest moment. It's the you don't have power over me anymore.
Yeah.
Not necessarily breaking the ties with the patron, because that's happening now. But it's the you don't have power.
If the Mighty Nine had confronted Ubatoa.
Yeah.
Will they have the blood sample that they took? The Raven doll and the necklace? Or the necklace?
I think so.
I think so too. And I think that's going to be bad news. Because I think that necklace is going to be
a flag tree.
Or something akin to that. Although FCG, clever DM. FCG identified that as a mundane necklace there in that space. Will they think to try to identify it if it's still with them?
Yeah.
Or will they not? That's the question.
Yeah.
And I tend to think probably not. And I would put money that Laudna wears it.
I hope not.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, God, I hope not. Oh. And that is the laugh of the DM.
And if she doesn't, it will be Fern.
Yes.
Who we've seen
put on a vestige of a...
Yes.
Yes. I love the fact that you did that laugh with the finger temple. Like, are you any more of a DM? Could you be any more DM?
Guilty. As we talked about, this episode is going to be the Halloween episode.
Yep.
They released a picture of them in costume. Everyone was an X-Men except Sam, who was Mr. Fantastic. Is that just so he can have his Richards jokes?
Yeah.
I predict the Mr. Sinister makeup will be gone by the break. And Rose, we may or may not. We'll probably discuss the first one. But you're going to be gone late December.
Yes.
So I might discuss it on my own, or we might wait till we're back together again. But probably. In any case, take care of yourselves and each other, everybody. And we will see you next week.